Represented, the podcast. I'm Annie Gichuru, racial equity coach for online business owners who want to be intentionally inclusive by building a business that is racially equitable. I created this podcast to normalize a conversation around racial inclusion so that fear is no longer the barrier that gets in the way of doing this work. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Whether you're taking your first steps or you're well-versed in the journey towards racial equity, this space is for you. So welcome home, friend. Let's get started.
From coast to coast, around the globe, we are represented.
Hey there, lovely. Happy 2024. How did we get here so quickly from 2023? I'm still playing catch up, to be quite honest. And I'd love to say that I am so excited to be here. Don't get me wrong. I am grateful that I have the opportunity to create this platform. But this whole prep of producing a podcast has had me so petrified. And it's not because I'm a rookie at this. I have done several podcast interviews where I've been a guest. I do weekly video lessons, and yet this has had me shaking, feeling unworthy, feeling like, what could I possibly share that I haven't already said? What can I say? How can I say it in a way that will get people to come along on this journey? How can I say it so that I don't get in trouble? How can I say it so it sounds good? I mean, how do you make racial inclusion work sound good? It's uncomfortable work. And we have to get to a point where we are comfortable being uncomfortable so we can get to the other side where we do see that change happening. And so, if we haven't met before virtually, my name is Annie Gichuru, and I'm a racial equity coach for online business owners. I love what I do, but it's not something I thought I would ever do. I feel that this is work that found me. I feel that this is work that called me into it. And for those of you who have strong intuition, you feel something that speaks to you in the inside of you. For me, that is the spirit that is inside of me that I feel speaks through. And I feel that I was called into this. PT, who has a podcast called says that we are not random, we're called. I love that because I truly feel this is not work that I chose for myself because of the kind of person I am. I am first and foremost an introvert. And as far as talking about matters that might sometimes be perceived as controversial, I'd rather not. But there are matters that stir you so much in the inside that you know you cannot be silent any longer. You know that you've just got to speak up. And for me, that's what 2020 did for me in the height of the racial awakening, so to speak. I felt that all the years that I had lived here in Australia, 20 plus years, and had muted myself and had not ever expressed how I felt when I faced situations to do with racism, and I was just silent about it. That for me was a breaking point, and I felt that no, I'm not going to be silent anymore. It's time to speak up. And perhaps you're here too listening to this because you got started up back then, and maybe things have kind of died down a little bit. This is work that doesn't have the urgency that it had, a few years ago. But I'm here creating this space because I think it is necessary for us to have platforms that we can engage with that allow us to grow. Our level of awareness needs to grow to the point where we are not just aware, but we are taking action. And so the reason why I'm doing this show is because I want to see that change happen. That change happen for my kids, that as they grow up and become adults, that they're living in society that doesn't just tolerate them, but society that wants them to be involved, society that wants and values them and sees them. And not just for my kids, but those who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color, that they are welcome, that they're needed, and that they have something of value to add. And I think very much that is what has been missing from the conversation of those who are in positions of leadership, those who are in positions of influence and power. That is an area where we have seen very low representation, if any, of people who identify as Black, Brown, Indigenous, and people of color. And so who is this show for? This show is for online business owners who absolutely want to build businesses that are more racially inclusive. But more than anything, it's for perhaps that person who is saying to themselves, hey, hang on, Annie. I am not racist. In fact, I am possibly the most inclusive person you will ever meet. I have people who are people of color in my programs. We have a lot of, representation in my business and my team. It's you I am speaking to, friend, because it is often the people who think that they already know, those who are already doing what they need to do, that sometimes the lessons are for them. This platform, the teachings that I'll be sharing with you on a weekly basis, this is for you. And in fact, I'd love to stretch you and ask you to apply a beginner mindset, a learner's mindset, because when we do that, we're better able to grow and not make assumptions. And this is where we're able to shift the conversation, where we're able to make those shifts in our perspectives, where we're not just looking at things as black and white or saying, oh, I'm inclusive, this is what we do, and we're ticking all the right boxes, but internally we are not actually inclusive, and perhaps there's certain things that we're doing that could be perpetuating harm, perpetuating racism. And those are some of the conversations that I want us to have. I want this to be like a chat we're having over a cuppa, and we're just unpacking really uncomfortable things, but we know they're necessary for us to grow. So why Represented Podcast now? I've been doing this work for quite some time. And one thing that resonates deeply with my clients and my students is the way in which I do this work. They have often described feeling so ignited and inspired to do this work, something they never thought possible. And I want to do the same for you. I want to be in a position where this work gives you joy to do it. When you look around your networks and you see not only the diversity by race, but also the inclusion in terms of the people who are growing and taking on leadership positions and positions of influence. And it's not just for a set group of people who look and sound a certain way, that you have played a role in shifting how things are happening, particularly in this online coaching space where there's the representation of people of color is almost non-existent. I also want this to be a coming home to yourself, an opportunity for you to sit with yourself and go like, I hear what Annie is saying, and it's tagging on parts of me that I had kind of blocked away because I was afraid of what doing this work might open up for me. It's really uncomfortable work, and it might bring in feelings of fear, of shame, of guilt. And I just don't want to deal with that right now. As a business owner, I have so many things to deal with. This is not one of the things I want to do that with. And so my sincere hope is that this will be a beginning of coming home to yourself as far as racial inclusion work goes. And I'm also hoping that we can interrupt call out culture, because my way of doing this work is through calling in. And by calling in, I mean that when people make a mistake, when you say the wrong thing, rather than coming at you like, how dare you, how could you should have known better, being in a position to see the human in you and speak to your highest self and say, yes, you've made a mistake, but how do we move on from here? Correcting with love, correcting with compassion, showing grace, because we all make mistakes. And if we were offered grace, it would take away the feelings of defensiveness and really allow us to sit in what has happened and to take accountability. But more than taking accountability, wanting to stay in the arena of this work so that you can continue to work through whatever it is that you're feeling, because you're in a space that feels safe for you. So, what can you expect in this podcast? You can expect some really incredible conversations, not just through me teaching and sharing my perspective, but conversations from incredible clients who are prioritizing inclusion work, students who have shown up for this work and absolutely blown me away with their commitment. Conversations from Black, Indigenous, and people of color, specifically those who identify as women, who are shakers in their field, hearing firsthand from them what you can do to be more inclusive as an online business owner, listening to their journeys, hearing them. Sometimes it takes you hearing somebody's story and finding the similarities and note, in fact, there are more things that connect us than disconnect us. We're more alike than we think. And when we see people who have similar values, when we see people who are like-hearted, then a connection is made. And I'd love that to happen here. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions, for you to submit questions, and for me to come on here and answer them for you, because I strongly believe the only way that we can learn is by asking questions and not being afraid of asking. One of the things that I say in my coaching spaces is that there isn't any silly question or you should be educated enough to know not to ask that, or, oh, that's so ignorant. I think when we approach things from that perspective, it really gets in the way of people leaning in. And rather than dipping their toe in, it allows them to go knee deep. It allows them to go elbow deep and all the way right swimming in, because they feel that the space they're in allows them to come as they are without that judgment, shame, and guilt that this work can often make a lot of white people feel. The frequency of this podcast will be weekly. I love Mondays because Mondays is the day when you're kind of setting your intentions for the week. At least for me, it is. It's more of a quiet day, more admin and thinking about the week ahead. And so it'll be dropping every Monday for those of us in the Southern Hemisphere. But if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, my friend, this will be dropping possibly on a Sunday evening. Again, what a good way to close off, actually not close off, what a good way to start the week. by listening to this. If you're wondering what it's like to be held in space by me inside my containers, take a listen to some of my clients and what they have to say about working together.
The way you hold space and the way you teach and the way you call in, but also the way you so masterfully, gently help us see our blind spots. I see you as a coach. I just see the way you do that. And it's beautiful. It's powerful. It's changed me profoundly. It's also made me a better coach, witnessing you.
Wanting to know where to go with this work, but not feeling safe with people that I was looking to. And I know that's very much a privilege, poor me, white girl thing. Like, I really understand that. But same as what Kim said, like, you've taught me so much about being a space holder and a coach. And like the way that you've just shown up with such a beautiful, open heart that straight away you weren't just a mentor to me, you were a friend as well. And I hope that you have felt the same with me and everyone in this space as well. And that is what is going to change. That is what is going to create ripples, I feel, is just that, like, hey, we're in this together.
I expected it to be scary and deep, but I didn't expect it to be like as deep as it was, because of how loving it felt and how safe it felt. And I think the biggest difference that it's made for me personally is, and it's such a subtle thing, but it's huge. It's, instead of asking the question, how can I solve this problem? Or how can I do this right? I'm coming from a perspective of what would it feel like to be a person of color in this moment, to have this experience, or to go into a space with me, or to look at my website, or to be in this conversation. What would it feel like? And that has a very different impact on the way that I'm responding to the situation.
I wanted to learn from you, because the way that you teach this work is very different, and it's far more aligned with me and my values. And I think I speak for a lot of us, because I know a lot of us have shared that, you know, knowing that we can do this work in a way where we don't have to be shouty if that's not our style. We don't have to take on a tone that feels aggressive if that's not our style.
Okay, now here is how you can deepen in this work in 2024. There are 3 ways that you can work with me. Number 1 is through Represented. Represented is my signature program that I have been running for quite a number of years now. And it's really based on awareness, taking you from the point where you begin to have such a heightened knowledge of what is going on around you. And once you see things in a certain perspective, once you begin to put in that inclusive lens, it is hard to unsee how things work in certain ways. I've had clients who have come through who have said, oh, when I joined Represented, I thought I knew so much. But honestly, going through the program, which is only 4 modules, I keep asking myself, how did I not know this? How did I not see this before? So if you're somebody who this is the beginning of your journey and you've always felt a little bit afraid of stepping into it, this is such a great program. If you're somebody who's seasoned, you've been doing this work for a while, it is still such a good program, because it brings back things that perhaps you may have learned, or you hear things differently. I've had people who have taken the program come back years later, and they're just blown away by how much they're able to take things in, because they're looking at it from a different lens. Having lived life as somebody who's done this work, come back again and seen, oh my goodness, here are the gaps that I still need to address. And racial equity work is lifelong work. We never get done with this. We continue to grow in it. And the second way that we can work together in 2024 is through my program Included. This is a brand new mastermind where I support you as your Chief Inclusion Officer. It is for online business owners who have group programs or are looking to create group programs. This essentially helps you go through your client journey from the very beginning, from attraction right off to onboarding. What kind of messaging are you using? What kind of marketing strategies are you going through? What are your operational activities and how inclusive are they? Looking at your partnerships and your collaborations, who are the people that you tend to collaborate and work with? Are these people inclusive? What are you doing when it comes to approaching people, perhaps people of color that you might want to engage with? What protocol are you using? How are you approaching them? And what might you do to make that interaction a little bit more favorable? Those are some of the things that I cover inside Included, and so much more. It is a rich, rich program. And then the third is guest masterclass. So you might be somebody who has a team, but you've never done this work together as a team. You have the opportunity to invite me to come and deliver a masterclass based on where you're at. So maybe it's your systems and your processes. How inclusive are they? Because sometimes we can get so robotic that we're just using systems to support us, which are great for sustainability. But how human and inclusive are they? How can we make them such that the experiences that our clients are having are incredibly effective? But more than that, if you don't have a team and you're still growing, offering a masterclass to your clients for your group program is also another way that we can work together. It's a great way to showcase your allyship. It's a great way to, as you're supporting your clients in whatever area is your expertise. You might be a business coach, you might be a health and wellness coach. You are also incorporating inclusion work. And inclusion work is part and parcel of who we are as humans. It's part of our life. It's part of business, career. And if we can begin to embed it in everything and we don't treat it separately, then we're really amplifying our lives and also amplifying that client experience that you're having within your group program. Find out all the details on how we can work together by heading over to anniegichuru.com/work together. That's Annie Gichuru, GICHURU.com/work together. Now, I have thoroughly enjoyed delivering this welcome episode. It's even gone a little bit longer than I anticipated. And as I was sharing about what to expect and giving you a little bit of my perspective, I got really comfortable. And so before I go, I would love to ask you what you thought of this welcome episode and invite you to slide on over on my DMs on Instagram. My handle is annie.gichuru. That's GICHURU. And leave me a voice note. Let me know what you enjoyed and perhaps what you're looking forward to in the time to come. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We are represented. We are represented. We are represented.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a review so this podcast can reach more online business owners, and together we can begin to normalize racial inclusion in the online coaching space. I'd love to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where this podcast episode was recorded, the Wiradjuri people in central New South Wales, Australia. Music produced in Nairobi, Kenya by Patrick St. Mbaru and Kambua Mathu. Vocals by Joanne Matata.
Represented.